Have you ever thought about how you can create your own emergency meals that are ready to go with minimal cooking? Today I'm going to show you how to make a DIY 24 hours MREs for your go bag, for your outdoor adventures, for vacations. It really doesn't matter what you use them for. It's one whole day of food with no cooking required for lunch. Let's get this done.
Allow me to give you a little background on myself. I'm Arlen. On most days, I'm just a guy in a t-shirt. But after 15 years of disaster management and emergency planning, I've seen firsthand how critical it is to be ready for anything. My family has lived through blizzards, power outages, and even wildfires, one of which forced us to evacuate our town. I've done the training and have worked on municipal emergency planning committees, so I know how important it is to have a solid plan in place. I hope you enjoy this how-to video and can take practical pieces to increase your family's comfort during a terrible event, as well as your enjoyment of the outdoors now.
Welcome to Disaster Preparedness 101. In this series, you and I will cover everything from food storage to essential gear and everything in between. In today's video, we're focusing on building DIY MREs. These are perfect for when disaster strikes and you need food fast. Heck, these are tasty and simple that our family takes them on backpacking, camping ventures, and road trip vacations because of the huge savings of not having to eat at a restaurant. Specifications for these MREs will follow SurvivalFit Adventures criteria for exactly what I need and what our family needs on our adventures, and also what we require in an emergency. So this is not the same for everybody, but this is for us. Number one, it has to give enough calories to sustain a high level of activity for both survival or adventuring. So you can see here, this package has 2,500 calories inside of it. Number two, the protein level must be high enough to sustain muscle repair and prevent muscle loss so our bodies remain fit. So we look at this package again, and this package has 112 grams of protein. So this is not going to win you any bodybuilding competitions, but it's going to prevent muscle loss and help with muscle repair while you're in an emergency or out on the trail. Number three, this 24-hour has to be easy to use. It has to be easy to use for me, for both survival and adventure, and it has to be easy for my kids to use as well. So let's go on. What is an MRE? For those of you who are watching that maybe have never seen an MRE is a prepackaged meal designed for the military. You can use it for emergencies because they have many characteristics that work for that purpose. So you can see they're very compact, they're nutrient dense. So the average for one of these is about 1,250 calories. And you can see they're easy to store, and they store for average about 5 years. This one's a little bit older than that, but it's here right now. And you can see the contents of the MREs here. They're in individual packages within. Here's some peanut butter. By the way, MRE peanut butter, it makes a very good fire starter as well. It's because of the icing sugar they put in it. Anyway, interesting things. Here's a question for you. Have you ever eaten an MRE? Maybe you've ate hundreds. Drop it in the comments what your experience with eating MREs is. Next question, has your family had any experience eating them? While I have nothing against commercially made MREs for the military or civilian use, those of you that have ate MREs, you know what I'm talking about. Some taste better than others. So when we're talking about children and consumption of said food, I want to get back to some historical data that might be relevant to the topic. So there is some historical evidence that children can become malnourished during times of stress in a survival scenario. So this evidence we can see from the potato famine in Ireland, or more recently in Somalia. This shows that children under extreme stress were less likely to eat, even if food was offered. This contributed to a higher mortality rate. food neophobia, or fear of unfamiliar foods, it could be suggested it led to lower food intake among children, even if survival was necessary. So MREs made from foods that are not strange to the children that they are for is one way to prepare any family for a disaster, an emergency, or any other stressful event. The foods contained in my DIY MREs are not foods that we eat on a regular daily basis, but they are familiar and accepted well because of the next important point. We use DIY MREs for outdoor adventures, and we use them on vacation. We take them on backpacking trips, overnight adventures in the outdoors. We also take them on road trip vacations to save money and time when exploring. On the road, whether it's on vacation or during an emergency, we can easily eat while we drive. And if we're at a hotel, we can use the microwave to heat up the breakfast and dinners if desired. If there is no microwave, I'll show you exactly what we do later in this episode. Number 2, why DIY MREs over store-bought? Why would I take the time and effort to do my own MREs? The first thing I want to talk about is cost effectiveness. DIY MREs are far less expensive than store-bought ones. Store-bought MREs vary depending on supplier, but in my marketplace research, the cost per 100 calories is between 60 cents and $2.10. So that's just for 100 calories. What you see on this video at the time of making it cost me about 56 cents per 100 calories, or $14 per day, and you can scale from there. Where you live may be cheaper or more expensive, and that brings me to customization. You can make meals based on your dietary restrictions and preferences. So for example, gluten-free, vegetarian, or carnivore, you can make MREs for each one of those. And they're also very scalable for the amount of calories I choose to include in each one of these. So within our family, we have different caloric needs. My daughter may not eat all of her MRE, whereas my teenage boys may eat all of their MRE and whatever my daughter doesn't eat. You can choose to customize, or like I do, keep them all the same and let people in the family trade or share as needed. The next point is you can choose to heat the food up or not. I'm choosing, in this case, no need for a stove for lunch and snacks. So for lunch, you'll prepare meals that are ready to eat straight from the bag with minimal prep. It's perfect for when you just need something fast, on the go, in the vehicle, whatever it may be. You just need food, you need some calories, and you need it now. The last point I'll make on this is shelf life. DIY MREs can last up to a few years with proper packaging. You can add these oxygen absorbers if you want them to last even longer. You can go off of your best before dates on the individual products inside the MRE that you pack. I'll show you what I do to label these so that you know which MREs to use up first. The next section I want to talk to you guys about is the basic ingredients and food choices for how I build these out. So we're going to talk about all the different components before we put this all together, and I'm going to go through it in detail how I put it together so that it is nice, packaged, and as tight as possible so you can fit as much nutrition into as small a space as you can. Let's talk about protein first, because that is what we need for the building blocks of our body. So we talk about canned meats like chicken or tuna. You've also got meat sticks, beef jerky, or other shelf-stable plant-based proteins like that are in protein bars, for example. Then we talk about carbohydrates. That gives us the energy that we need to go long distances or for high performance. So if you need to sprint, you need to move, you need to hike, you're gonna want some carbohydrates on a fairly regular basis. So I've got some instant oatmeal, you could have pasta, you can have rice. You can see we have a rice pack here. I'm not showing everything at this time, but there's crackers, there's tortillas, there's all sorts of options that you can use for carbohydrates. Fruits and vegetables, you can have dehydrated fruit like these freeze-dried apples, or you can choose something like fruit leather. They give you fiber, which helps you go to the bathroom, which is a great thing if you need to be eating this for a long extended period of time. Talking about snacks and other energy sources, so we're talking about granola bars, trail mix, nuts, chocolate, those sorts of things. I like these Sesame Snacks. They've been a favorite of mine since I was a kid, and I continue to like them. In fact, this little package actually has 170 calories. So if you need a little pick-me-up when you're doing something that requires a lot of energy, this is the perfect thing. And then we want to talk about beverages. These are so important for not only staying hydrated, but also just that comfort level that comes from a warm or cold beverage, or just the fact that you get a little bit of a pick-me-up from it. So this here is some electrolytes, and then we've got coffee, of course. We've got some hot chocolate. This does wonders in the winter, especially with children, and some tea. So all of these help hydrate us, give us some extra calories, and give us that boost of morale. So whether you're going on a big hike, backpacking trip, or if this is strictly for emergencies and you are in a difficult spot with your family, having these beverages are very, very important. Condiments. These just make everything taste better. If you like hot sauce, get some hot sauce. If you like peanut butter, get some peanut butter. And of course, you can always start a fire to heat up your food with it if you don't have anything else. And salt and pepper. These are great for just making food taste that much better. A few supplies and tools that I've used to make these are medium freezer bags. We've got large freezer bags. I've got a Sharpie here for labeling if that's what you choose to do. I'm a terrible writer, and I find that using the label maker actually makes things so much better. So I would suggest using a label maker for this process, and you'll see why when I show you the finished product. Let's talk about breakfast and the individual components that make up that breakfast. So I've chosen oatmeal here, and you can see that I've chosen the variety pack that you can get most places, and this is the maple and brown sugar, and there's 2 of those in there, but then I've included one of the regular packs. That's because I find that if I just have the flavored ones, it's way too sweet for me. So I like to include one of the regular packs in there just for some extra calories, but not the sugar. So you can do that with oatmeal if you prefer, or I actually have some individual packets of cream of wheat as well. So then what I do is I add to that when I'm cooking it in the pot. After it's pretty much done, I just take it off the heat and stir in some protein powder, and this is just regular whey protein powder. You can stir that in. That gives you about 25 grams of protein for a total of 32 grams of protein in this meal. Then you've got your hot chocolate mix if you prefer, or I generally go for the double coffee. And that's breakfast. When you go to cook oatmeal, you need water. You need water for pretty much everything else to do with life. And that's why in emergencies and disasters, water preparedness is the most important thing. Being squared away with your water before a disaster even hits, having some stored is so important. And that's why that was the first video that I made in this disaster preparedness series. But you need water to make this. So you need actually 2 cups of water and this oatmeal, and you will have a balanced meal after you add in the protein. So let's pack this breakfast away, and we can easily do that by throwing, I like to throw the regular package of oatmeal in the center, and then we've got our protein, our coffee, our hot chocolate, And I just wanted to show you this spoon. It's a wood spoon. I don't like them as much as plastic, but on the other hand, if you needed to start a fire or use it for something else, they come in handy. You can carve this with your knife. It's pretty cool. So let's push on this, suck all the air out of it, and then that's ready to go. That's breakfast. All right, so lunch is a different one because remember, it is just to grab and go, eat, no cooking involved. So I'm just gonna run through the different items that I've picked and why I've picked them. So the first thing is a tuna salad on crackers. It has its own little spoon to put the tuna mix on the crackers. And this particular one has got a decent amount of protein in it already. It's got 7 grams of protein right in this box. Then I've got some of this, it's just dry toast. And again, you can dress that up with some condiments. So I've got raspberry jam and some peanut butter. Now for snacks, for protein, you've got a protein bar here. I had mentioned the Sesame Snacks, Ritz cracker sandwiches. These are always a favorite of the kids for some reason. And I've also got different condiments. So again, you've got your hydration with some electrolytes and then another coffee if you need a little pick-me-up in the middle of the day, got you covered. And then tea for more hydration. And then again, the fiber and the yumminess that comes from dried apples. This is one of the favorite things of our kids, and I know it goes a long ways when you're out on the trail, or if you're in an emergency, these definitely are a favorite. So I'm gonna pack this away. You can see why I chose the medium freezer bags for this, because simply a sandwich bag is not large enough to fit all of these different items. And in fact, I don't put the apples in with this because it does not fit at all. So the apples actually go in separately, as you'll see. But there is lunch. I squished some of the air out of that, and then you've got this. So this is lunch, snacks, and you're ready to rock and roll. That brings us to dinner. This is another cooking meal, and I've got the little canteen pot out. You could, I suppose, eat this cold, absolutely, but it is better warmed up, and we're gonna talk about that. So this is a cheddar jalapeno flavor rice that I am actually mixing in chicken with. So it is amazingly good when you do that together and you heat this up. So what I do is I start out, and on the directions, you don't need to use water. But what I do is, because if I'm cooking it over just like a small pocket rocket or my BRS 3000 stove, what I do, because it's such a concentrated heat source, I put a little bit of water, like just maybe a quarter cup in the bottom of this, and then put in the rice and put in the chicken and keep stirring that. And it takes about 3 or 4 minutes to get that nice and hot. You need to stir it, and that's why it's actually really nice to have these wood spoons, again, multi-use tools. So doing that gives you a nice hot meal, and this one's got a little bit of spice, and that's my personal preference to have in there. But you've got the protein, so you got a good chunk of protein in there. You've got the carbohydrate. And then if you want a little bit more of a fattier snack closer to bed, you've got your hot rod as well. Now, no caffeine at night, so I didn't include a coffee, but there's a tea that you can enjoy just to kind of warm up at the end of the day if it's chilly. Again, we're talking disaster, emergency preparedness on the trail. Nights always are cold. You always want something hot at the end of the day. So let's package that up. So we'll start with the rice. This is kind of the hardest one because of the can. And I know I could use freeze-dried chicken, which is also another great choice out there. But this works and it's relatively cheap where I'm at. So that's what I'm doing. So again, we'll get this sealed up and smash that air out of it as much as possible. And you can use a straw and suck the air out of it if you wanted to. I find that I get enough out of it just doing that. We'll get on to putting this all together. Now that we have all of the meals in their component bags, we've got breakfast, lunch, and snacks. We've got our dinner, and then we've got this extra fruit as just a outside of the meal snack time. So when we have them all like this, then we can go ahead, and I like to label these individually, and then you can see how many calories, what's the protein in each piece, and then I will put it all into the main bag and label that as well. And then what I'm gonna do is put a date on that bag so that when I have a whole bunch of these made up, it's so that we continue to use the oldest ones first. When we go on our outdoor adventures or do anything, we take the oldest ones first, and then that way we always have a fresh supply for when an emergency does happen and we need to take them with us. We know we've got good to go food. So the first thing that I'm gonna label is this breakfast, and its total is 790 calories with 40 grams of protein. So I'm gonna make a quick label for that. The next is lunch and snacks, and it is actually 1,150 calories with 38 grams of protein. So I'm gonna make a label for that one as well. You don't have to label any of these things. I just like to have it because I like to track the amount of protein that I'm getting in and know that if I eat whatever's in here, that's how many calories I've got in my system because I like to track. So that's a personal thing, don't have to do it. Go ahead and do it if you want. I like the label maker, you may not, you might like the Sharpie. So it's very customizable to whatever you want to do. Now we come to our rice and chicken dinner, and this dinner has 730 calories and it has 37 grams of protein. So we've got our rice and chicken dinner. I'm gonna go ahead and label that. I just like to summarize so I know what is this meal worth to me or to my family. So, and also again, I like to use the label maker because my writing actually sucks. And I actually won the penmanship award in 4th grade for having really nice penmanship, but it hasn't improved since. So I like to use the label maker. Now I'm going to put all of this in my large freezer bag. So this is a large Ziploc freezer bag. So it's kind of got the reinforced part to it. This is why it's really important to push that air out of these bags as much as possible so that when it comes to this stage, you can get it all in there. I like to put the fruit and the spoon at the top just so it's very easy to get at that little bit of fruit as a snack on the go. And then what I do is I don't quite close it all the way. And I'll see if I can do this on camera well, is just by kind of packing it down like this and then closing it. You can see it's basically made a vacuum effect. So there's hardly any air in there, and that is good to go. You got your spoon in there, got all those meals in there, and we are ready to go. So I am going to label the outside. So this actually came to 2,670 calories and 115 grams of protein. So I'm gonna make a label for that, and I'm also gonna put a date on that. All right, so there you have it. There's the label on here, 24-hour ration. It was made March of 2025, and it's got the 2,670 calories and 115 grams of protein. This one is good to go. So a little bit on why I choose the Ziploc bags, because I know, and there's gonna be people out there that think you should use Mylar or something like that. And absolutely, if you wanna use Mylar bags, go right ahead. I just know that our family is going to use these up well before you ever really need to have the advantage that Mylar gives you. So if we're using these up in a year at the most, or 2 at the very most, everything's gonna be fine and good. We keep these with our go bags, which are in a storage locker that is dark anyway, so you're not getting any advantage to the darkness part of it. So I don't find any reason to use anything else other than these Ziplocs that are very cost efficient. So I wanted to let you know how I actually do the process. For the purpose of this video, showed making one of these, but what I usually do is make a whole bunch at a time. So our family, we have 6 people that are constantly using these. So I would make them in multiples of 6. So maybe I would make 12 up at the same time. So I would buy enough supplies, bags, and Ziploc bags, and all of the insides of these to do up 12, and then I would sit and basically mass produce them all exactly the same. Like I said, I do them all the same and let my kids trade back and forth. It saves a ton of work, and then it's all done all at the same time, and you're good to go. So here, this is what our family would have for a 24-hour period, and we are good to go. So we keep these meals in with our go bags in the lockers that you can see just behind me, behind the weight rack. And that keeps them at a good temperature. We try to keep it cooler in the garage. It's good for working out, and it's good for food and water storage. So keep these in a dark place, cool, and they'll keep for a long time. So another thing that I wanted to talk to you again about is the need for water, and we have water with our go bags as well that we would be taking with, as well as some extra water for all the different things that you're gonna run into in an emergency. You never know when you're gonna need water for something, whether it's a hygiene or whether it's just really hot when you need to use that emergency water. It's always good to have a little extra water with you, not only to hydrate meals, but to hydrate yourself or cool yourself off if you're a place where there's no air conditioning or something like that in the summer. A couple tips to make these MREs more enjoyable. I already showed you some hot sauce and some different condiments, salt and pepper, and there's ketchups, there's peanut butters and jams, but there's also the ability to add different variety. Like this one, I've actually got ramen noodles in there instead of the rice mixture to mix with the chicken. So you kind of get a chicken noodle soup in the pot instead of rice and chicken. So, and also all of these have a different flavor of that rice mixture. So some are like the jalapeno cheddar that I showed, some are like a Mexican rice mix. One of them is some red beans and rice, all different kinds for all different flavors. Just helps with that. Like if you're eating these for say 3 or 4 days in a row, it's gonna help with that boredom. And like I said, that food fatigue or fear of food not becoming an issue because you're getting that variety, but also it's all fairly familiar at the same time. What I've tried to do with these is balance out the carbohydrates, the proteins, the fats and fiber, so you get a good mix of everything. Like I said, you need the proteins for your muscles, you need the carbs for that energy, fat for energy as well, and then also the fiber from fruit and vegetables, which help you go to the bathroom, which is in an emergency, actually surprisingly a big deal. You can see behind me, I opened up the go bag locker, grabbed my go bag, and you can see right on top, I've got the first ration right here. Looks very similar to these. And I've got all sorts of goodies in here. This bag is full. It's a 55-liter bag that is full of awesome goodies for the event that we have to leave our house. Having to leave our home would be a last resort situation that we would never want to do unless it was the last resort. You might be saying, I don't want to put all of these together and never use them. And that's why I'm saying that this is something that we use on our day-to-day as we do adventures out in the outdoors, and as we go on vacations, as we do other things. We use these all the time in order to save money, because this works out to about $14 per day, which on a vacation, can you imagine how much it costs to go to a restaurant with 6 of us? It costs a lot more than that, I'll tell you. So, so we use this to save money, to save time, and to just get out there and enjoy the outdoors instead of always having to be finding our food from coolers or whatnot, because it's right there and it's ready to go. It's not everything, but having a go bag in the times that we live in is very important. And I'm gonna spend another episode going through what I have in my go bag, and I hope you'll check that out. I have some unique pieces in there that is really customized for our family and our situation and where we live, what we're gonna be possibly facing. So this is part of my background, is this disaster preparedness piece. And I wanted to show that in an episode all to itself so we can take the proper amount of time going through the pieces and why, so that it might trigger within you ways that you can help make your family safer. You can add to your system. You can add to your preparation for the day where things just don't go the way that they should. I hope as you've been watching this video that you can see that DIY 24-hour MREs are an affordable, customizable solution for your emergency go bag. And not only that, you can use them all the time for different reasons. It doesn't matter if you have 4 or 5 kids or 1 or 2. These come in handy no matter what you're gonna be doing. And they're very customizable. You can create it however you want. If you don't wanna cook anything, don't cook anything. If you wanna cook every meal, go ahead, knock yourself out. I choose to do lunch only, as we're not gonna get out any cooking stuff. We're just gonna be on the go, in the vehicle, up a mountain, anything like that. I also alluded earlier to a need to cook our food and have a warm meal. And this gets back to the psychology in a stressful situation. A warm meal or a warm drink goes a long ways in helping us as adults or our kids to cope with what is going on around. If we're used to having a warm meal at home and then suddenly we're just having cold, hasty meals that don't taste any good, it's not gonna help make us feel more comfortable. So by having that hot meal, whether you are using this for emergency and you're in an emergency, you've got to cook this meal and everyone gathers around and we actually have this meal together. It gives a sense of togetherness and this warm meal that brings a lot of comfort, especially to our children. So that's what's important about that. I wanted to share that with you. It's something that I believe is very important, and that's why in mine I've done breakfasts and dinners as cookable meals that in a real emergency where you're basically running for your life and you can't cook, you don't have to cook. Just put some water in there, eat it up. It's not gonna be great, but you'll live. And other than that, cooking it brings that comfort, it brings that togetherness, and it kind of takes you out of the emergency moment for a little while. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more tips on all of this stuff. I'm going to be doing a larger series on Disaster Preparedness 101. We're going to continue to hit relevant topics for this day and age that we are living in. Drop a comment below as well on what your favorite go bag meals or any DIY MRE tips that you may have. So coming up next on this channel, we're gonna be tackling topics like how to build a comprehensive disaster medical plan with first aid kits included. We're also gonna be doing that follow-up with the go bags that you saw briefly on this episode. What are all the items that a family needs to have in a 72-hour go bag and why? So please like this episode and subscribe for more content like this. If you're still with me at this point, thanks for watching. I want you to stay prepared and stay safe. And until next time, be ready for anything.